Gary Parrish, welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to that like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. Please do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We are today continuing our Summer Shootaround series that we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. As I'm sure you know by now, you better know by now. We're doing the top 10 of the top 25 and 1 as currently constructed. We're doing them in the order that they're ranked. We've already done number 1, Kansas, number 2, Alabama, number 3, Houston, number 4, North Carolina. We're now turning our attention to number 5, UConn, the Huskies. You might have heard, went 37-3 last season, 18-2 in the Big East, won the league by 4 games, won the Big East tournament, got a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, then beat the crap out of Stetson, Northwestern, San Diego State, Illinois, Alabama, and Purdue to win a second straight NCAA tournament. Finished number 1 at KenPom with an adjusted efficiency margin of plus 36.43. That was 5.26 points better than anybody else. It was 6.57 points better than the year before. From that team, 4 starters are gone. Only Alex Karabin is back. So the other 4, they were all selected in the 2024 NBA draft. Huskies are missing 4 of their top 5 scorers from last season. Regardless, I got UConn preseason top 5 team. We'll see what Norlander thinks about that next. But first, let's get a word from our partners. Okay, Norlander, UConn is a preseason top 5 team.
Ooh.
Do you mock it?
No.
Or would you mate with it?
All right. I appreciate that you're changing it up. Not everything has to be so sexual in nature.
Would you mate with it, though?
Can I? How about this? You made me pump fake on that. I was like, go ahead and say that adjusted efficiency margin differential between 23 UConn and 24 UConn. What was it?
I mean, I hope my iPhone wasn't messing up, but what I got written down right here, what I got typed in here, it was 6.57 points better than the year before.
And I was like, hold on a second. I was like, did he have that right? And lo and behold, UConn 22-23 adjusted efficiency margin 29.86 last year was 36.43. They were that much better. Now every season is a universe unto itself, so these don't exactly A to A, but still that is downright absurd. And hello Huskies.
On that note, let me go ahead and do it if you don't mind. I don't mean to interrupt, but trivia time.
Oh,
it's a trivia time.
You're going to guess that this is not my trivia time for this episode. I'm going to guess you're going to ask me how many teams ever have had a higher efficiency margin in a season.
Nope.
Okay.
Yes, but incorrect. So the KenPom database now goes back to 1997. All right. UConn's plus 36.43 adjusted efficiency margin was the highest for any title winning team since.
Can I get 3 guesses?
You can have 7. I don't care.
7?
7.
We don't have time for 7. Any title winning team since I'll say, all right, how about this? I'm going to give the answer, then you got to tell me more recent or further back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
My first guess will be 2012 Kentucky.
You're going to have to go further back.
Then I would say 08 Kansas.
Further back.
Man, I'll say 01 Duke.
01 Duke is the correct answer.
All right, there we go.
37.32. They finished 35-4, won the title. That was Jay Williams, Shane Battier, Mike Dunleavy, Carlos Boozer, Nate James, Chris Duhon. I worded it specifically that way because there are actually like multiple teams that finished with a better adjusted efficiency margin that didn't win a title.
Including Gonzaga, yes.
1999 Duke. Listen to this one. plus 43.01.
I know. One of the very best teams to never win a title. It's why the UConn team that won its first title is still like underrated.
Right.
Anyway, keep going.
So 99 Duke plus 43.01, 2015 Kentucky, that's plus 36.91, lost in the Final Four.
Yep.
And then, yes, 2021 Gonzaga, plus 36.48, lost in the title game to Baylor. The best ever in the KenPom database is that 1999 Duke team. Had a 32-game winning streak heading into the title game, lost to UConn. That was a team with Elton Brand, Trajan Langdon, William Avery, Corey Maggette, Shane Battier was young, Chris Carrawell. Awesome team. Didn't win a title, plus 43.01. It just highlights that UConn team was not just awesome for last season. It was, in the modern era, one of the best basketball teams we've seen.
No question about it. This UConn team, this UConn program coming into this season, just a great storyline for the sport in general. Having a back-to-back champion, something that we don't get a ton, although we actually currently have it right now in the NFL and in men's college basketball. More likely to win again, UConn or Kansas City Chiefs?
Kansas City Chiefs, just because it's just I think it's so much easier for the best team in football to win a Super Bowl than it is for the best team in basketball to win in college, to win a single elimination tournament. And it's not even clear to me that UConn is going to be the best team in basketball. Although UConn fans I'm open to anything. Go undefeated. I won't rule that out.
Correct.
Go undefeated, winning every game by 20. I can see it, I guess.
Now, men's Division I college basketball has had a more recent three-peat champion than the NFL. The NFL has not had it since the 60s with the Packers. So I would also pick the Chiefs. The Chiefs have the best player in the sport. So there's many reasons to do it, but it's kind of interesting that these sports don't lend themselves to three-peat champion. I mean, generally speaking, it's tough to do, but I would say the Chiefs as well. So how about this? The two most recent back-to-back champions, prior to UCLA doing more than back-to-back, are Florida and Duke. Florida 07-08, Duke 92-93. Those schools in those years, when they were going for the three-peat, Florida went 24-12, was an NIT 2 seed, went 8-9 versus league opponents that season, did not get trivia time, didn't get to number one in the rankings. What do you think the highest ranking in the AP poll was for Florida in the 07-08 season after it lost Noah, Brewer, Horford, the whole crew?
15.
They got to 20th. They were only ranked twice. They were 25th in the second week of the season, and then they got to 20th by the end of January. Only ranked once for one time, and then they didn't get ranked again.
Was that Nick Calais? Nick Calais, this pops into my head for some reason.
That team was comprised of, you might be right on Calathis. I'll bring it up here. They finished 38 KenPom. That team had Calathis, Maurice Spates. How you doing? Calathis was a freshman. Walter Hodge, Jai Lucas, Chandler Parsons, a freshman on that team. How about that? Lost it to UMass in the NIT. They were 2 seed in the NIT. They just had a letdown season, but it was one of those. It's interesting. I remember that was the first year. Any super OGs listening to this pod that have listened to this pod since it was before CBS, and it was the College Hoops Journal podcast. That was the first season I did writing for College Hoops Journal. And I remember there being a relative contentment with Florida just being okay. Like they ran back-to-back titles. They lost all their best players, and it was like, whatever you guys want to do, it's just going to be what it is. You're not going to be able to replicate this. And they didn't. They were solid, but they weren't good enough to make the NCAA tournament. That's not the situation with UConn. There's a lot of obviously pressure put internally within the program with Dan Hurley, and then outside looking in. Here we are talking about on the shoot around their preseason top 5 team for GP. So stark contrast is between that Gators team 07-08 and this UConn team. Now the Duke one, real quick, GP 92-93 Duke. It went 24-8, went 10-7 versus league opponents that season, and went 10-8 in the ACC, and then or 9-8 in the ACC or whatever it was, and then lost in its first conference tournament game. Trivia time. What round of the NCAA tournament did that Duke team lose in?
I'm going to say that was a round of 64 loser.
It was not. It was a second round loser to Cal. Jason Kidd and Cal. Duke was a 3 seed that season with a 24-8 record.
I remember watching that game. And I was like,
no, you were not. Come on.
I can't wait till these two schools are in the same conference.
Yeah, exactly. That, by the way, little nugget, that was the final game for Bobby Hurley. So Dan Hurley's brothers, his final college game happened that year in a Duke uniform, got knocked out of the tournament by Jason Kidd and Cal, which brings me to ask you, how many weeks will UConn be number one this season? Because that Duke team spent 5 weeks at number one. So Florida never got to number one, never got close. That Duke team that season got 5 weeks at number one. How many weeks do we think the UConn Huskies will spend at number one in the AP Top 25 for the 24-25 season?
My instincts were to say 0, but I'm not going to say that because I'm tired of being on the wrong side of UConn. So I'm going to say all of them.
No.
All of the weeks.
I am hypothetically making you wager a month of your salary. What would you wager?
Both salaries or just one of them?
Both.
Oh no.
Both. So, and you got to be within 1 week to keep the money. So it's got to be you're on it or it's plus or minus 1. What would you guess?
Okay, 1. I would say 1.
My guess is yes. I will go exactly. I think UConn manages to find the number 1 ranking for 1 week.
Because 1 would include 0. If I go 1, I'm still good with 0.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd go 1.
Correct. 0, 1, or 2. I think that with, and we'll get to the schedule here in a second. I think that they'll get there. They've got a good chance to get there. But one more thought on Huskies, and then let's dive into the roster, GP. I would say this. It's a great thing for college basketball that we've got a back-to-back champ. Dan Hurley doesn't go to Lakers. He returns. Alex Caravan, they get him to stick around, and I think that's a big key piece in all of this. But let's not go as and I think we'll do a good job on the pod here. They're going to have the expectations are going to be so heavy. If for whatever reason UConn, has some stumbles and doesn't wind up being a top 10 team, like it's not going to be a disappointing season. And I'm already feeling like a little bit of the vibes of like this team needs to be a top 5 team. If it doesn't, like it's going to be this huge disappointment. Man, they just won back-to-back titles in historically dominant fashion. They are allowed, even though they're not wanting to do it, they're not hoping to do it. It's not their goal to do it. Sometimes, the math is the math. These things are really, really hard to do. If UConn, God forbid, finishes second in the Big East and doesn't have a 1, 2, or 3 next to its name in the NCAA tournament, like it's not going to be a disappointing season, especially coming off of what they did there. So at least let's try to keep some context around all that stuff. I know Hurley wants to go for the historic three-peat. It's on the table to do so, but I think it's just as likely that they win the national championship for a 3rd straight season as they fall outside of the top 20 in the metrics by the end of the season. So let's just at least keep that potential outcome on the table and not lambaste the program or denigrate it or say Hurley made such a terrible decision. Why would he have come back to this? It is possible that could happen. And it already feels like people are just expecting UConn to be awesome the way we expect the Chiefs to be awesome all the time. There's no guarantee of it happening. And if it doesn't happen, I think we should have at least a bit more pragmatism around the reasons that would account for that. And the biggest of that being they've got a lot of guys here that are going to be asked to step up and do stuff and play roles that they've never played before. And I'm interested to see how they adjust to those roles and how successful they are.
I know you weren't speaking for yourself there as much as you were like, if this doesn't go the right way, people will be saying all sorts of things.
Can't you see this happening? Like,
I guess, but the dumbest thing in the world anybody could ask is, why did Dan Hurley come back for this if the season goes the wrong way? He came back for this for the chance at it. I mean, he came back for a lot of reasons, but the chance is what you're coming back for. You can't guarantee anything, but you can guarantee you having the opportunity to take a shot at it. And that is among the reasons he's back. Regardless of how it goes, I don't think he wanted to walk away from this chance. And he's going to have the chance. And though I have them 5th in the top 25 and 1, which honestly, if I'm just evaluating rosters on my own, feels high. But I just believe in the staff and believe in what I've been watching. And I don't want to have them outside of the top 5. They are co-favorites to win the national championship in the betting markets, along with Duke and Kansas at plus 1,000. Three-way tie currently in the betting markets, plus 1,000. It is Duke, UConn, and Kansas. Then Alabama at plus 1,300. Houston at plus 1,600. So they're very much in the conversation. And I think you could argue certainly better equipped than that Florida team was to win a third straight championship. And I'd have to go back and look at the Duke stuff specifically, but they're set up to do it, or at least have a legitimate chance at it. I will say this. If they do it, and tell me if I'm getting hyperbolic here, if they do it, I will call it the greatest 3-year run in the history of college basketball.
There's a real case that is true because of the fact that when UCLA was doing this, they didn't have to win 6 games, and it was just there were so many different elements about how basketball was run and organized and rosters and all this.
You got to do it with Lou Alcindor for 3 straight years.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what?
Yeah, some of it's circumstantial. There was even the segregation issues of the 1960s when UCLA was starting on there. All of this stuff. So there's a case for that. I would also say if they do it, like Dan Hurley, who's not yet in that conversation, but he's getting there. If they were to do it, Dan Hurley's a top 10 all-time college coach. Like he will be, he automatically goes into the bucket. If you really look at his resume, everything right now, you can't put him in that conversation. You really can't. He can eventually get there, whether they do it or not. He could get there whether they win another national championship ever the rest of his career or not. But if they do it and you do that, then conversation's over. But they got to do it. And it is absurd. Here's another on the previous.
I just want to run you through it real quick.
Okay.
What this would be, because again, I don't mean to discount what anybody has ever accomplished in any sport, including John Wooden, but like he won 3 straight with Lou Alcindor. I mean,
well, did Walton ever win 3 in a row?
No, Walton won 2 and then
won 2 and then they lost.
Yeah. So right. You know, I don't want to say anybody could win 3 in a row with Lou Alcindor, but I bet John Wooden ain't the only one.
Mick Cronin, I'll say it if you want.
I mean, obviously Mick Cronin could.
I don't even know if Mick Cronin would need Lou Alcindor to win.
And little bitty Tony Hinkle, little 2-year-old Tony Hinkle could probably do it.
Yeah.
You know. So, okay, just 2022-23. This is what we'd be talking about. There ain't no Lou Alcindor on the roster, all right? 2022-23, they start the season unranked. I think some people forget that. I know you don't, but some people do. They were unranked in the preseason. They win the national championship. They lose 3 starters from that team. Win another national championship.
And by the way, those starters are all go to the NBA.
Yes.
And I know Sunogo's a bit of a
but like they're all professional basketball players.
Yeah. And Sunogo, and by the way, the best of those 3 was their best player was Sunogo. Yeah, continue. Yeah.
So they win a championship after being unranked, lose 3 starters, win another championship, historically great. Now they've lost 4 starters. If they win another championship, it will be 3 straight championships with, I'm assuming, 3 different best players.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be 3 different best players.
It would have to be.
Yeah, it would have to be.
This would be the case. Caravan was not the best player the past 2 seasons. So.
Right. So it would be 3 straight championships, 3 different teams with 3 very different teams with 3 very different best players. That would be the greatest coaching accomplishment in men's college Division I basketball in the history of the sport.
But they got to do it, and damn, is it going to be tough. No spoilers on the trends on this answer or not, but one of our candid coaching questions this season is not, will UConn win a 3rd straight championship? I frankly thought if we asked that question, it would probably be like a 90-10 return on a no, if not more. It'd be just so lopsided, but the
smart answer is no. It just is.
Correct. But we did ask coaches, do you think UConn will just make the Final Four? Not if they're going to win it. Will they make the Final Four for a 3rd straight season? That's part of our candid coaches series. Not even going to spoil how the responses have come back yet, but keep an eye on that. That will be going up here later this month in August. Let's do a quick roster rundown and then get to the schedule stuff here. Newton's gone, Spencer's gone, Klingen's gone, Castle's gone. You think about what those guys did and the roles they played and how, and I mean perfect, they fit into what Hurley and Kamani Young and Luke Murray and Tom Moore, that whole staff, what they wanted them to do. It was unbelievable. Caravan coming back is so vital to this. It really is. Now, can he be, the question is, can Caravan be the best player? Do they need him to be the best player? Well, we get a month into the season to say, well, damn, like suddenly solo ball is incredible, or maybe, Liam McNeely as a freshman steps up and is able to be something of an alpha. I don't know. They have Aiden Mahaney coming in from St. Mary's. Terrace Reed is the big from Michigan. He'll play with Samson Johnson. We'll see if Samson Johnson can make, like Samson Johnson as a big. He has huge shoes to fill from a role perspective. Ahmad Noel and then Isaiah Abraham are the freshmen. Their roles are kind of TBD in terms of how they'll need them. I would anticipate the starting five. I think there's a lot of questions on who will actually be the starting five, call it the first week or so of the season. I'd go Diarra. I think Diarra will be at the point. I think you'll get solo ball, Jalen Stewart, Caravan at the 4, and then Johnson at the 5. I think you'll have Mahaney coming off the bench to start the season. I think.
So that's interesting because you have at least 2 starters that I would have different.
Granted, this is a guess last projection, but I think that they will task Diarra with running point before they do Mahaney, because I know but just by watching Mahaney's not a true point. He is a combo. And I would guess that Diarra will start over Mahaney to start the season. That would be my guess.
I would have that, Diarra and Mahaney at the 1-2, but I would have McNeely on the wing.
He's a freshman. I just don't know. Like, maybe he does, but maybe for the first 2 weeks of the season, like, they bring him off the bench. I don't know. He might. I don't know. He's a 5-star prospect, so there's certainly a possibility, but I don't know.
Yeah, how about this? How about we let Dan figure out?
No, well, Dan hasn't figured it out on July 31st, so we're figuring it out for him right now.
Yeah,
so.
How about this? We'll let Dan Hurley figure out his starting lineup. But if you and I are basically saying they got like 7 dudes who could reasonably start, then it speaks to the talent level within the program. They lost a lot, but Diarra's a 5th-year player. Mahaney's a junior who's already like won West Coast Conference titles over Gonzaga. McNeely's a 5-star freshman. I think possible one-and-done lottery pick. Caravan is like, if he'd have entered the draft, I think it would have been 5 starters selected in the 2024 NBA draft out of UConn. And then, I think Johnson is he's spent his entire career playing behind Adama Sanogo and or Donovan Clingan. So he hasn't really had a chance to shine in any real way. But I do think they need him to be a bit of a breakthrough guy. He averaged 16 minutes per game last season, but he's also a senior. Like, he's been in the program for a while. So that's the other thing. They are totally having to reload, but they're not doing it with a bunch of young guys. McNeely is, but outside of that, it's a pretty experienced roster.
So I agree. The experience is going to be big. Can Caravan be the one? Like, can Caravan be? They're going to be a top 5 team in the country. Does he need to be a first-team All-American? I don't know if he has to.
I don't think he has to do that.
But I think he's got to be like a top 15 player in the country. Is he going to be that? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to do that. I don't know if he will thrive being the number one option. Maybe I'm can't wait to see what happens there, because he's a tremendous college player, super smart. He did turn down guaranteed money to be a draft pick, and instead decided to come back for another year and hopefully up his stock, which is an impressive decision. We'll see how it pans out for him. But I think beyond Caravan, it is Solomon Ball and Jalen Stewart, who combined to average less than 6 points a game last season. They have to pop in a major way. Those are guards, wings that they need, who have promise and have been bided their time, waited it out, got some spot play. Now they're going to be asked to step up into significant roles. And UConn's got a little bit of time at the start of the season with bye games to get adjusted to that. But then go right into the schedule here. They're in Maui, Auburn, Colorado, Dayton, Iowa State, Memphis, Michigan State, North Carolina. UConn is Maui. So really, really good field. They get Baylor at home on December 4th. They're at Texas December 8th. They got a home and home with Texas scheduled now. And then they play Gonzaga in the Garden on December 14th. So you've got 6 non-con games of note. Everything else is a bye game, although I will credit Dan Hurley. He's going to open the season at home against an in-state school, Sacred Heart. I always appreciate when big-time schools are willing to do that kind of stuff, so good on him for doing it. It's not Yale, which is a better program, but regardless, getting Sacred Heart is a good job by him. And then Big East is obviously round robin. 20 games. They're going to play everyone twice, so they got to go on the road, and they got to play at home with all of that. It's a pretty good schedule, all things considered, when you take into account that they, unlike other high major teams that we're talking about in the shoot-arounds, don't have to do round-robin scheduling. I'm going to put the over-under here on a 31-game schedule. See, I'm not framing it with you as like a top 5 team. I'm more looking at what I think they'll be. I will put this. I'll put it 24.5 regular season wins for the UConn Huskies, and I'll go first this time. I'm going to go under. I'll say UConn goes 24-7 because I'll say they get picked off once in Hawaii. I'll say at least one of Baylor, Texas, or Gonzaga, and then 5 league losses on a 20-game slate when you got to play 10 of them on the road. That's entirely fair. So I'll go under 24-7 for the back-to-back champs.
Oh boy, I didn't hear you talking about an under at Frog Hollow a few weeks back. I didn't hear you mention.
I would have said the under.
I don't think you would have said that to Kamani's face. I don't think you would have. You wouldn't have said that in Luke Murray's face. I saw you.
Trust me, they will find me.
I saw you at Frog Hollow. You were just like, "This is a great 2-year run, guys. How's the pork chop?" You didn't mention the under at all.
This did not happen.
You didn't mention the under.
We had not determined it at that point.
You were like, man, that's amazing what you guys have been doing. Hope you enjoy your pork chop.
This is what Parrish. By the way, what Parrish is referring to is at Peach Jam in Augusta. There's a restaurant called Frog Hollow, which is like the best restaurant.
We love Frog Hollow.
Great spot. So we went and had dinner there, and it just so happened that like 27 different coaches also eventually showed up. The UConn staff was one of them that was there. So yes.
And Norlander was like, man, I can't imagine any staff being able to do what you guys have been able to do. This is amazing. How's your pork chop? Never mentioned the under, not even once. Disrespectful. How many national championships does Dan Hurley need to win in a row before assume he can?
Excuse me. Who was the person on this podcast who by, I don't know, mid-January last year said he wasn't picking against UConn no matter what? And who was the one that was 87% Boilermaker?
I
feel like, yeah, exactly.
I got confused. I got confused last season. I woke up one day and I thought I was a Boilermaker, and I couldn't shake it. I didn't share. You learn from your mistake. Hey, I learned from my mistakes. Do you learn from yours?
Squirrel person. Squirrels. But a squirrel, I think that's a squirrel.
You're a squirrel person, GP, for that. That's what you are.
You are being disrespectful. How many championships in a row do you have to win before somebody assumes you can get?
Let me check this. I believe UConn won a championship in 23 by not even having, let's see, in regular season right now. Here we go. UConn going into the 23 title. It had exactly 24 wins. It had 24 wins going in. So how about that? They could do it again. They could win 24 regular season games and still win a title because they've done it before.
That's not something Dan Hurley would. That's not what. Imagine sitting across from Dan Hurley and telling this man, I know you won 37 games last season, but Norlander doesn't think you can win 25 heading into the Big East tournament.
No, I think they can. I'm predicting they won't. There's a difference.
This is a hater. You're a real hater.
All right, go ahead. 31-0. Let's go.
I mean, yeah, I'm going over 31-0. I'm taking the over 31-0. Undefeated in the Big East, undefeated in the non-league, 31-0. Go Huskies. Tweet that, no escalators. 31-0 heading into the Big East tournament.
I honestly think 70% of Parrish's stances on all this because he gets bullied by no escalators. I think that's what it is. Which is, if you're unfamiliar, it's a UConn fan.
We have a loving relationship.
Okay.
We've actually embraced in person.
Okay, well there we go.
We've had personal interactions.
There we go. All right. Same, by the way, but it's all good.
Yeah, I know, but 31-0, that's my prediction. If I'm being, you want me to be serious for a second?
Oh, I dare you.
Okay, let's go. 4 losses in the league, 16-4, but win the Big East. That's good enough to win the Big East. And then let's do 2 non-league losses, and that takes me down to 25. I'm over.
There you go. Barely, by the way, barely.
I know my real answer is 31.
No,
but if you want me to give a different answer, it's 25.
UConn Huskies. Fascinating year awaits.
Hey, in all seriousness, if you just go the projected roster that I would have out there, what do you need to win a national championship? First and foremost, Dan Hurley. You need Dan Hurley. I think that goes without saying. You need Dan Hurley. It starts there. But outside of that, what do you need? What do we experience?
You need a basketball. Yep, you need a basketball.
You're going to need a basketball. You're going to need some players. You're going to need
a court.
Court.
Yeah. A couple of goals.
Laces to go in the shoes. Yep. You're going to need laces.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff you need. All right. Once you get all that, experience. They got experience. They're very experienced. A lot of older guys. You need, I think, pros. I'm willing to say they got at least 2 of those in McNeely and Carabin. And then you need shooting. Mahaney can shoot it. McNeely can shoot it. Carabin can shoot it.
Can Mahaney shoot it?
I think Mahaney can shoot it.
Right now.
37.5% from 3 in 2 years at St. Mary's.
I'm looking right now.
I just told you.
37% in 2 years at St. Mary's from 3.
37.5.
I got 37.3. Yeah, he's 42.9 from 2-point range. He's getting there.
He really did not have the
he wasn't as good in year 2. Correct.
Yeah, like that you expect. He had an incredible freshman season. You're like, okay, this guy could take off and maybe be a first team, second team All-American. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that for whatever reason.
Yeah. We'll see.
I can't
wait. A long episode, by the way, here.
I can't wait to see.
I got no issue with it, but big one on time.
Hey, if you want to accuse me of believing in UConn, then just accuse me of believing in UConn. I'll accept the label.
Yeah, of course, if he winds up being wrong, he'll disavow ever having recorded this episode.
No,
even though it lives on
a UConn believer. I'm a UConn supporter.
One of us lives in the state. One of us is in Mississippi.
Well, maybe you're a little too close to it. Maybe you've gotten a little too close to it. I can still appreciate it from afar.
Yeah.
Like I bet if you live right next to that, I bet if you live right next to the Eiffel Tower, you don't even enjoy it anymore.
How about that beach volleyball venue, man? It
looks nice, right?
I got some serious envy of our friends in the media that are out there covering this.
It looks nice, but I bet if you just see the Eiffel Tower from a distance, you're like, oh man, that's amazing. But you get a little too close to it, you see it every day, you're like, I think they'll probably go under. I think the Eiffel Tower is probably under. I can see how it happens.
Should we as we close out the episode, should we have a friendly wager on this?
I want to have an unfriendly wager on this.
What is an unfriendly wager?
Unfriendly wager means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
It means that we slap box.
I'm not slap boxing you.
The loser has.
Not happening. We're not resorting to physical violence for the loser. That's not happening.
Physically assaulted. The loser has to be physically assaulted by the other person. Okay. That's what we're gonna do.
You want to report this to HR? See how that goes for you?
Yeah, I'll talk to HR. Wouldn't it be amazing if the one thing HR finally got me on was just flat boxing after all these years? Could have been anything.
UConn listeners, send your thoughts and suggestions for a friendly wager.
Yeah.
I've got 24 or fewer victories in the regular season. GP's got 25 or more.
Sorry for believing in the 2-time national champion. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry for being crazy and believing UConn's going to be awesome again. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts. Apple,
literally
Spotify.
A 1-win difference, by the way. One win between us. Never stopped you before.
No, okay. Listen, you either believe or you don't believe.
Yeah, okay.
You either believe or you don't believe. Hey, when you get to the gates of Dan Hurley, it ain't going to be, nobody's going to want to hear, it was just a 1-game difference. Did you believe, this is what at the gates of Dan Hurley, when you're trying to get into Storrs to spend your afterlife, they're going to say, did you believe or did you not believe? I'm going to be able to say that I did. Are you going to be able to, bro? Are you going to be able to say that?
I know what you're going to be able to say.
I was wrong.
I know that. What school we got coming next?
I think it's Iowa State.
All right.
Think it's Iowa State. Let's see if you believe in them. Can I get you to believe in a TJ Otzelberger since I can't get you to believe in a Dan Hurley?
I'll sleep on it.
Well, let's sleep on it then. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.